This is the story of how I died in Pompeii, not the history book version, mine. They told me death would feel distant, like something happening to someone else in a story I would never finish reading. They were wrong. Death arrived on an ordinary morning while I was making bread, and it gave me exactly 4 hours to realize everything I loved was about to disappear forever. My name does not matter anymore. What matters is that I woke up that morning thinking about flour and ovens and whether my little sister would remember to close the shutters. I did not wake up thinking about volcanoes or gods or the fact that by sunset, my entire city would be buried under 20 feet of burning ash. But that is exactly what happened. And you need to understand something before we go any further. This was not a quick death. This was not a merciful disaster. This was 4 hours of watching the world unravel, one terrible minute at a time, while people like me tried to decide whether to run or stay or pray or scream. By the time we figured it out, it was already too late. Let me show you how it felt to be born in the wrong city, on the wrong day, under the wrong mountain. Hour 1, 6:30 in the morning. The bakery. I woke up in a cramped room that smelled like old smoke and rising dough. My father was already downstairs, hands buried in flour, the oven radiating heat like a second sun. My sister slept in the corner, her breath soft and even. Through the window I could see the mountain, Vesuvius. It squatted on the horizon, dark and heavy, wrapped in morning mist. We never called it a volcano. We just called it the mountain. It had been quiet my entire life. That was the first mistake. Quiet does not mean safe. It just means the countdown has not started yet. I pulled on my tunic and walked downstairs. My father handed me a lump of dough without looking up. "Another day," he said. His voice was tired but steady. I believed him. I thought we had 1,000 more days just like this one. Days of bread and flour and small complaints about sore backs and difficult customers. We had 4 hours. By mid-morning, Pompeii was alive and loud. I carried fresh loaves through the forum, weaving between merchants shouting prices, women gossiping near the fountain, and boys my age arguing about gladiators. The air smelled like fish and wine and sweat. The sun was bright. The stones were warm under my sandals. Everything felt normal. Everything felt safe. Above us, the mountain watched, silent, patient. We had gotten used to the tremors. Small earthquakes that rattled cups and cracked walls were just part of life here. Buildings shook. People cursed the gods. Repairs were made. Life continued. We had been living with warnings for weeks, maybe months. Little trembles that made old women clutch doorways and made wine spill from cups. But no one left, no one packed, no one said the word evacuate. That was the second mistake. We confused familiarity with immunity. We thought, because we had survived yesterday, we would survive tomorrow. We were standing in the shadow of a loaded weapon and we treated it like furniture. Hour 2. Just after midday, the eruption begins. I was back in the bakery when the light died. Not slowly, the way evening falls, instantly, as if someone had thrown a cloak over the sun. I stepped outside and looked up. A column of smoke was rising from the mountain, black and thick, climbing straight into the sky like a spear thrown by an angry god. It rose higher and higher, spreading at the top, forming a shape like a massive tree made of ash. The street went silent. Every face turned toward the mountain. Every mouth hung open. Then the ash began to fall. At first it looked like snow, soft white flakes drifting through the air, landing on shoulders and hair and upturned palms. But it was not snow. It was hot. It stung when it touched skin. It tasted like stone and sulfur. Someone laughed nervously and said it was just smoke. Someone else said the gods were angry. A woman started crying and pulled her child close. My father appeared beside me, his jaw tight, his hands trembling. "Go find your sister," he said. "Bring her here. Do not stay outside." His voice was calm, but his eyes told the truth. This was not just smoke. This was the beginning of the end. I found my sister at the fountain, playing with her friends, trying to turn the falling ash into a game. They were laughing, catching flakes in their hands, dusting each other's hair white. They looked like ghosts pretending to be children. I grabbed her wrist and pulled. She protested, annoyed, until she saw my face. Then she followed without a word. As we ran back toward the bakery, the city transformed around us. The ash thickened. It filled the air, the streets, the spaces between buildings. People began to cough, covering their mouths with cloth, their eyes red and streaming. Dogs howled and pulled at their chains. A horse reared and kicked, nearly crushing a fruit cart. The ground trembled again, harder this time. Tiles slid from roofs and shattered in the street. A clay jar fell from a window and exploded beside us, shards biting into my ankle. The sky turned from gray to black. The roar from the mountain grew louder, a deep grinding sound that I felt in my chest more than heard with my ears. People started shouting. Some said to leave the city. Others said to shelter in stone buildings. No one agreed. Everyone was afraid. We reached the bakery and slammed the door shut. Outside, the ash kept falling. Inside, we tried to pretend we were safe. We were not safe. We were just buying minutes. Hour 3. Early afternoon. The city begins to collapse. The ash piled up fast, faster than I thought possible. Within an hour, it covered the streets ankle deep, then knee deep. Roofs groaned under the weight. Weaker structures began to buckle and cave in. Someone pounded on our door. My father cracked it open. Our neighbor stood there, wild-eyed, ash coating his hair and beard like he had aged 30 years in 30 minutes. "They are saying to flee," he shouted, "to go to the sea." "The city is not safe. Flee." The word felt impossible. This was our home, our life. Everything we owned was inside these walls. But my father looked at the oven, at the shelves, at us. Then he made the choice. "Take only what you can carry," he said. "We are leaving, now." We grabbed what we could: bread, dried meat, a blanket, my mother's bracelet, things that felt important in that moment but would mean nothing an hour later. We stepped into a street that no longer looked like Pompeii. The world had turned gray and black. Ash fell in sheets, so thick I could barely see 10 feet ahead. People moved like shadows through the haze, clutching bundles, pulling children, shouting names of loved ones they could not find. Somewhere behind us, a building collapsed. The sound was like thunder, followed by screams that were swallowed by the roar of the mountain. We joined the river of people flowing toward the gates. No one looked back. There was nothing left to see. The city gate was chaos. Carts jammed the road. Animals screamed and refused to move. Children cried. Old people stumbled and fell. Hands reached desperately for relatives lost in the crush of bodies. The ash was not just falling anymore. It was mixed with pumice, small burning stones that hailed down from the sky, stinging exposed skin, bouncing off heads and shoulders. Breathing became a fight. Every breath dragged dust and heat into the lungs. People wrapped cloth around their faces, but it did not help. The air itself was poison. Arguments erupted everywhere. Some insisted the safest place was inside stone buildings. Others screamed that staying meant death. A priest shouted that prayer was the only salvation. A merchant tried to load his cart with gold and could not move it an inch. My father did not argue. He gripped our hands and forced us forward step by step through the bottleneck of terror. I looked back one last time. Pompeii was disappearing. The city I was born in, the streets I walked every day, the temples and baths and markets, all of it was being buried under a growing mountain of ash. Only the tops of the tallest buildings were still visible, like islands sinking into a gray sea. I did not know it then, but I was watching my city die. And we were next. Hour 4. Late afternoon. The pyroclastic surge. We made it outside the walls. The road to the sea stretched ahead, covered in ash so deep it felt like walking through sand. Every step burned. The ash filled our sandals, scraped our legs, clung to our skin. My sister stumbled and coughed violently. My father lifted her without hesitation, even though his own breath came in ragged gasps. The sky glowed with a sick, unnatural light. Lightning flickered inside the cloud above the mountain. Thunder cracked, but it was not thunder. It was the mountain tearing itself apart. People began to fall. Some simply sat down in the ash and refused to move. Others collapsed mid-step and did not get up. The old, the young, the weak, they dropped like stones. We kept walking. There was nothing else to do. Then the heat came. It was not gradual. It hit like a wall. A wave of superheated air that rolled over us from behind. So hot it felt like standing inside a furnace. People screamed. Some tried to run. Others dropped immediately, their bodies seizing, their skin blistering. I turned and saw it. A black cloud racing toward us, low to the ground, moving faster than any human could run. It swallowed everything in its path. Trees, buildings, people. This was not smoke. This was the mountain's breath. 600 degrees. Poison gas and burning ash moving at over 100 miles an hour. My father dropped to his knees and pulled us close, curling his body around ours, trying to shield us with his own flesh. "Close your eyes," he said. His voice cracked. I pressed my face into his chest. I felt his heart hammering. I felt the heat closing in. I felt the ash filling my lungs, my throat, my nose. And then I felt nothing. This is what they do not tell you about Pompeii. They show you the casts, the preserved bodies frozen in their final moments. They call it tragic, they call it fascinating. They walk through the ruins and take pictures and marvel at how well everything was preserved. But they do not tell you what it felt like. They do not tell you that we had 4 hours to watch our world end. 4 hours to make impossible choices. 4 hours to realize that everything we thought mattered, our bread and our arguments and our plans for tomorrow, meant absolutely nothing when the mountain decided it was our turn to die. We were not heroes. We were not villains. We were just people who were born in the wrong place at the wrong time, living under a threat we had learned to ignore until it killed us. 1700 years later, they dug us up. They poured plaster into the voids our bodies left in the ash and made sculptures of our final seconds. My father, still curled around me and my sister, frozen forever in the last thing he tried to do, protect us. It did not work, but he tried. That is the real story of Pompeii. Not the history, not the science, the feeling, the 4 hours between normal and gone. The moment you realize the world does not care how much you love your family, or how hard you work, or how badly you want to live. Sometimes the mountain just wins. And there is nothing you can do but hold the people you love and hope it ends quickly. It did not end quickly, but it did end, and now you know what it felt like to die in Pompeii.